So today we're diving into something pretty heavy, a kind of philosophical verdict. You could even call it an autopsy, performed on one of the most powerful ideas in Western thought, the Overman. But this isn't a story about victory. No, this is about dismantlement, all set in a world that's just teetering on the edge of nothingness.
Our story kicks off right here, in this place of, well, spiritual rot. It's called the Abbey of Safety, but it's not a sanctuary. It's more like a tomb. It's an architecture built on stagnation, a place where all the rituals are performed with perfect precision, but the meaning, the actual spirit, that's long gone. This is a world that is just crying out for some kind of judgment.
And this right here, this is the sickness at its core, the Pharisees' paradox. It's this exact spiritual decay that has summoned our, let's call them agents of judgment. See, the problem isn't chaos or a lack of order. It's the opposite. It's an excess of hollow order, a beautiful, gilded cage with absolutely nothing inside.
So, to deal with this sickness, two figures arrive on the scene. And they are not your traditional heroes, not by a long shot. They're more like archetypes of a final reckoning. Let's meet them, the Reaper and the Mirror.
Okay, so you can think of these two as opposite sides of the very same coin. On one hand, you have the Red Spectre. He's the active force, the architect of dismantlement, the surgeon who's here to cut away all the rot. And then you have the Uncanny Jester. He's the passive force, the mirror of the rotting society, whose only job is to force this world to see just how decayed it really is. One acts, the other reflects, and together, they're known as the Shadow Saviors.
Let's just focus on the Spectre for a second. Now, you might think his goal is just to destroy things, but it's actually way more nuanced than that. He sees each of our individual egos as just tiny shards of a mirror that's been shattered. So his purpose is really a kind of reclamation. He wants to gather all those broken pieces and return them to the silent, unified whole they originally came from. He's here to get rid of the static of the individual self.
And here's the real kicker. They aren't looking for power. They don't want to ascend. In fact, they reject that whole idea. Their shared goal is this: a magnificent, inverted descent. A journey down into the absolute nothingness of the deep. And for them, that's not failure. That's restoration.
Okay, so the stage is set. Our judges are in place. And now we get to the heart of the conflict. That ideal held so dearly by everyone in the Abbey, the Nietzschean Overman, is about to be put on trial for its life. But before we get to the verdict, we really need to understand the defendant. What is this ideal that they're trying so hard to dismantle?
So in the Abbey, the Overman is basically seen as a creator, right? The master of his own fate. A being with this immense will who embraces everything about existence and forges his own values. Always climbing, always ascending toward more power and more life. It's the absolute peak of self-assertion.
And then the verdict comes. No ceremony, no preamble, it just drops. All of that struggle, all of that will, all that self-assertion, they judge it to be nothing more than a desperate, noisy scream against a silence that's going to win anyway. It's a completely futile gesture. So, why is it futile? Well, to the Shadow Saviors, the universe is this eternal fabric of silence. The individual ego, it isn't some grand monument. It's just a temporary, frantic little vibration. Trying to make it last forever is, it's like trying to hold back the entire ocean with just your hands. Now, this verdict isn't just some opinion they pulled out of thin air. It's the result of a very specific philosophical tool, a method they call the logic of zero. Let's take a look at how this thing actually works. Probably the best way to think about the logic of zero is as a kind of powerful solvent, a philosophical acid. Its one and only purpose is to dissolve all the structures we build around our identity, our vanity, our ambition, our very sense of self, just to see what, if anything, is left when it's all gone. And it's a very methodical process. First, it interrogates the very foundation of the ego. Then it starts to burn away all those superficial layers, all that vanity. And the final step? A deliberate, systematic return to a state before life, before consciousness, a return to the inorganic. This is, for all intents and purposes, a trial by fire. The logic isn't trying to prejudge anything. It's an experiment. The idea is, if there is something essential, something real, buried underneath all that ego, this process will find it. And if not, well, then all that's left is the silent, absolute dark.
But here's where it gets really strange. This whole destructive process, it's framed as a gift. They call it the Crimson Gift. And what is it? It's permission to just stop fighting, to finally cease the constant, exhausting effort it takes to maintain a separate identity. It's a release from the pain of being an individual. So where is all this heading? What's the ultimate state of being that the logic of zero is proposing? What does this redefined, new and improved Overman actually look like? The contrast here is, well, it's absolute. It's night and day. The old Overman fights, he creates, he asserts his will. The redefined Overman, he surrenders, he waits, and he achieves a state of zero tension. You see, he doesn't try to conquer the void, he merges with it. He stops trying to be a star and becomes the night sky itself. And this all brings us to their fundamental argument. The Shadow Saviors claim that we've all made a massive ontological error in how we see ourselves. We celebrate individuality as this great victory, but they see it as the original catastrophe, the very first mistake that separated us from the peaceful, silent unity of non-being. I mean, it is such a powerful, complete reframing of everything. The force that dissolves the self, the one we see as an executioner, is actually a midwife, helping us get reborn into nothingness. And the void, the very thing we're all terrified of, is actually our home. And that, of course, leaves us with the final, deeply unsettling question. In a world that's defined by the agonizing tension of being separate, is it possible that ultimate freedom isn't found in becoming more, but in becoming nothing at all? Is this dark comfort the only real peace we can ever hope to find?